Hi VC, it's Rob here with another video, and yeah, the end of March 2020. I don't think we'll ever forget March 2020, will we? And what's the rest of the year going to hold? We'll talk about that later. Anyway, I've got a few records to show, stuff that's been in my collection for 3 to 6 months really, and I've never got around to showing it on the VC. Got a load of stuff. So got an opportunity to play a lot of records during the weekend. I mean, I miss sport. I'm a big sports fan. Go to football, and there's no sport, and I'm not sure when sport's going to start again. Olympics is gone. Football season's, a distant memory. Nearly every sporting event imaginable is void at the moment, so for someone like me who goes to football and just enjoys watching sport, it's quite a void to fill at weekends. So playing more music than normal, watching the VC more than normal, yeah, I thought I'd show some records. So I've got an album here from 1968 which is goes down in folklore as some kind of classic. So I bought it in November, and it's this album, Odyssey and Oracle by the Zombies. So what's the story? I'd never heard this album. I'd never even heard of this album probably maybe 5 years ago. I can remember Paul Weller mentioning it. I think maybe when it was its 50th anniversary there was a bit of hoo-ha about it, and I mean, I knew the Zombies from the track She's Not There, but I've never really heard anything by the Zombies. But in November I bought quite a few records off Amazon, and when you just click in, and it seemed like a good idea, and I've kind of regretted buying it really, because if I really wanted it I'd have opened it by now, but I actually opened it and played it this afternoon. I had no idea what to expect, and I was pleasantly surprised. There was a couple of songs on it that I knew. So A Time of the Season I knew. I think it was a hit in America, and I think I've heard it in films, or when they're talking about the 60s maybe they play it in the background, but it was I recognised that song straight away, and a song called This Will Be Our Year, which I think the Beautiful South covered on a covers album many moons ago. So there was a couple of songs that I knew. I'm not the biggest lover of music from the 60s. I very rarely get the urge to play music from the 60s. I do like the Beach Boys, I like the Beatles, I like the Kinks, but I very rarely come home and reach for those artists. So an album like this, when I bought it and I never played it, I just thought, why have I bought it? Because I'm just not going to play it. Playing it did remind me of, there was a little bit of a Beach Boys vibe to it and the Byrds vibe to it. But I can understand I can understand where the hype's coming from, because I've only played it once and I do want to play it again, and I can see it being one of those albums that I'm really fond of. Whether it's an album that I'm going to play constantly, but looking back now, it's a good buy. Recorded mostly at Abbey Road in '68, and yeah, please pick this up. I think Cosmic Brian showed this probably about 3 months ago. Love Brian. I love how he drives his car. But he was raving about it. He really liked it. And Richie McCook bought it, and I think he was a bit similar to me. He kind of wondered what the hype was all about, and I don't think Richard was overly keen. He wasn't doing cartwheels. That's something I would like to see, but no, he wasn't he didn't seem that keen on it. Whether he's changed his mind, whether he's played it a bit more. It reminds me a little bit of like the Love album, Forever Changes. You know, that's another album that's sort of, is it overhyped? It probably is a little bit overhyped. It's a good album, and I'd say this is a good album. Whether it's an absolute classic, jury's out. But like I say, I'm looking forward to playing this over the next few months. Now, I picked up an album when I did a contest a while ago, and one of the questions was a band that you've not got any vinyl by, and I showed the Beta Band. Don't have any vinyl. I mentioned that I haven't got any Steve Mason albums, and I've got one now. So Steve Mason and Meet the Humans, and there's a little bit of social distancing going on here, but I do think maybe they're a little bit close together. I think maybe if it was that person in the middle was maybe taken out, maybe this is the way forward. That's maybe how we're going to have to queue up for our shopping. Instead of just a mask, maybe just like a bucket over our heads. So this was ahead of its time. This is from 2016, and I was in a record shop in Sheffield. Really good one. The guy in there, Barry, there's a documentary all about record shops that came out about 10 years ago, all about the best record shops in the UK. And you can, I think it's on YouTube. That's a cinema release. And the owner, Barry, he's in that video. And I went in that shop, and it was crowded, and everyone sort of dispersed after about 10 minutes. And we ended up talking, and I had a really good conversation with him. Very engaging. He's had the shop since 1978. John Peel used to be a regular visitor. Richard Hawley goes in there. Johnny Marr has been in there because his daughter was at uni in Sheffield. And we got talking. Gomez were at university in Sheffield, and they used to go in there, and they gave him a tape, and from that tape they ended up on John Peel, and you know, had a really successful career. So I was in that shop chatting with Barry, and I was looking on his walls, and he had this album for £10. So I'd never heard this album before, but I knew it was really highly regarded. And the Beta Band were a band from the mid to late 90s, went into the early noughties, and they had a really sort of dirty sound to them, indie, a bit psyche. I always thought they were really underrated, and their career could have really took off when they were used in the film High Fidelity, when John Cusack puts on the Beta Band, and everyone starts, you know, giving it this. They were asked whether they could use the song, and they said yes, but they never realised it was going to be such a big part in the movie. So when they went to the premiere, they couldn't believe the reaction of people after the film, and they were actually touring with Radiohead at the time. And they said if they'd have gone on a solo tour promoting the last album, I think Hot Shots, that probably would have been a really successful tour. But you know, Steve Mason never does things the easy way. From Edinburgh, he's 45 now, and this is a really good album. This is a 10 out of 10 album for me. So when I've been playing this over the weekend, it's sat on my shelf for probably about 5 weeks. Just didn't get round to playing it. Just got that label there. You know, I'm not joking when I say every track on this album is a winner. I put it on today, and I enjoyed it right from the very start. Very difficult to pick favourite tracks. Track called Alive, Hardly Go Through, Waterboard, Planet Sizes. Like I say, I can't fault this album. To me, it's a 10 out of 10 album. So yeah, Meet the Humans by Steve Mason. Now, talking about football earlier, or soccer if you're in America, and I picked this album up I think just before Christmas, and it's Mogwai and Zidane. So Zinedine Zidane, the French footballer, and Mogwai did a soundtrack to a film called 21st Century Portrait, and that film came out in 2006. So I'll let you see the label. It's got Zidane on it. So Mogwai, Scottish band. I'm collecting the stuff. I think this cost me about a tenner. You always think you remember how much stuff was, and I forget sometimes, but I don't think I paid that much for it. So there's a film that goes along with this, and what they did were, I think it was can't remember how many cameras, maybe 20 cameras, and they were all watching Zinedine Zidane playing for Real Madrid in 2006, and they were filming him doing everything that he did. So from in the tunnel to the end of the game, every blade of grass that he ran on, every bit of close control that he showed was filmed at different angles, and that's what makes this film. I've never actually seen the film. I do really want to see the film. I was on Amazon looking to see how much it was, and it's only about £5. So listening to this music without the film, I'm just listening to it as a piece of music. I don't know if you watched the drama Chernobyl at the beginning of last year. Really good drama. I loved it. And there's a soundtrack to that album, and this music could quite easily fit into that Chernobyl. It's very atmospheric, ambient. There are some keyboards and guitar, but it's quite suppressed. In the current climate, this isn't easy listening, but that doesn't mean it's not good. It's challenging, but I enjoyed it, and I like Mogwai because they push the boundaries. They don't just do the same thing all the time. I mean, this isn't as highly regarded as a lot of Mogwai's albums, but I still enjoyed it. So yeah, let's see if I can say Zinedine Zidane. Well, I can't really, can I? But he's now the manager of Real Madrid, and he's one of the greatest footballers I've ever seen. So yeah, fitting tribute by Mogwai. Now, back to New Mills and my favourite record shop. I was in there. I go in every week, really. I'm going to miss the place. But I was chatting with Alex, and when I was chatting with him, I was looking on the walls at the records, and there was a record there, and caught my attention. And the price caught my attention too, because it was only £10, and it's Taking Off by Herbie Hancock. So if you follow me on Instagram, I put some clips from this on. There's a label. I think this is from '62, and it's his debut album. And the first track, Watermelon Man, I recognise that song. And I'm no jazz expert. What I know about jazz, it's not even on a grain of sand in the desert. But I know what I like, and I like this kind of jazz. I really like this. Herbie Hancock is still alive. I think he might be, I'm not sure how old he is, 78, 79. I remember Herbie Hancock in '78. He had a song called I Thought It Was You that I liked. I never bought it. And then in '83 he did a song called Rocket. And I knew at the time that he was he'd had a career before those songs came out. And particularly Rocket, I remember the video, and it was, it was shown a lot on the TV at the time, and it was a really sort of futuristic sounding track, and it still sounds good now. I wasn't aware that Herbie Hancock was so influential, and that he was, part of Miles Davis's sort of band, if you like. but this is top quality. This is right up there. You know, when I'm picking jazz up, I want to be picking stuff up like this, because there's no doubting that this is just great music. In these times, when you put something like this on, you just disappear somewhere. I mean, I suppose people do that with all music. You put music on to sort of escape, really. And this album certainly made me escape, and it sort of put a spring in my step for about 5 minutes. So, yeah, I really enjoyed this. Yeah, it's called Taking Off by Herbie Hancock. Now, I picked this album up from a record fair just before Christmas, and it's Griff Rhys. This album's called Babelsberg, so it's got like an Obi thing with it, and it's got a gatefold, and that looks like Donald Trump with Jesus Christ, if I'm not wrong. So yeah, that's an interesting combination. This is not this will not be going to the Donald Trump fan club, because it's very sort of, it's not anti-American, it's anti sort of Trump, anti those sort of divisive policies, if you like. Griff Rhys is from Wales, former frontman with the Super Furry Animals, and I think this is his 5th studio album from 2018. And I've had this for, like I say, probably 3 months, and I've never got round to playing it until today. I took the shrink off, played it. When it first started, I wasn't too sure, because it did feel a little bit American to me. But I actually put side 2 on instead of side 1. But there's the Frontier Man is a definite attack on Donald Trump. Limited edition Heart, very much Super Furry. The more I listened to the album, the more it was like, you know, a companion piece for the Super Furry Animals, and that's no bad thing, because I'm a big fan of the Super Furries, and this only cost me a tenner. So yeah, pleased to pick this up. Babelsberg by Griff Rhys. Now one more, and a bit more jazz. So it's Sonny Rollins, and these are the first recordings from 1957. So, did I know anything about Sonny Rollins? No, I didn't. No idea. But I was in the record shop, and this had a sticker on it saying £2. And I thought, yeah, I mean, you're not taking a risk at all there at £2, are you? So, brought it home, played it, really enjoyed it. Like I say, Sonny Rollins is still alive, so I googled him to find a little bit of information about him, and I was shocked to see that he's 89 years old and he's still alive, and he's, you know, so highly regarded in the 50s, and yeah, I mean, like I say, I mean, there's people on the VC who know a lot about jazz, and they can be a little bit intimidating. If you do not have much idea about jazz, then you can watch certain people on the VC and their knowledge is, you know, breathtaking. But, you know, do they know about, you know, everyone's got their own sort of strengths. And in the UK, jazz, to me, it is an American sort of style of music, if you like. So growing up, I really had no exposure whatsoever to jazz. You know, if I'd have grown up in America, maybe my dad would have been into jazz, but I don't think he had any jazz records. My dad was a music fan, like Glenn Miller, and, you know, he liked James Last. All those James Last records you see in the charity shop, you know, I think they're my dad's. But yeah, pleased to find this for £2. Sonny Rollins. So, that's the vinyl. I just sort of give you, especially if you're in America, maybe a little bit of an update of where we are on the coronavirus in the UK. Yeah, I mean, there's stuff coming out from the government now where, you know, reality kicks in, and we're not even a week into lockdown, And the lockdowns are quite liberal in some respects. You can go out for food when you like, really, and you can go out and exercise. But it's not locked down like they've got in Spain or Italy. Now, you know, you could argue that maybe our lockdown came a little bit late, but the government made a decision. But the noises coming out from the government for me are that there's going to be an increased lockdown, and I think it will be at the end of next week, because at the end of the tax year, which is sort of the beginning of April, we have a week before Easter and a week after Easter, and in between there is a holiday, and I think the government will do a stronger lockdown over Easter, the week before and the week after. Well, I've been given a letter on Friday about being a critical worker. Now, that is because our company do work for power stations, and whether that's deemed as critical enough when the next lockdown comes, I'm not too sure. If I have to work, then I have to work. I'll just have to cross that bridge when I come to it. But I think it's beginning to sort of hit home to people. You know, at work, I work with a lot of young guys, you know, and they're already talking about when the lockdown finishes, it's going to be like New Year's Eve, we're going to party, it's going to be amazing, you know. But me being a killjoy, I've got to remind them that you're not going to go from lockdown to you can do whatever you want. That ain't going to happen. It's going to be a gradual the tightening that the government have got now will be released gradually. So this could be until the autumn before things get back to some sort of normality. But moving forward, I think that the way the governments have dealt with this crisis has been a wake-up call to governments, because they've done sort of dress rehearsals on this before. In 2016 they did a dress rehearsal for something like this, but they didn't really put into place the findings. And I think all governments around the world now, if there's a slightest whiff of any sort of virus, your borders are going to come down. And I'm not talking about in a week, they'll be coming down within 24 hours. The movement, I think, that people have, or we're used to, I think that's going to be a thing of the past in some respects, because I think governments and countries are going to be paranoid for quite some time about people coming into their country who have got the virus. So if you do travel, there's going to be a lot of restrictions and there's going to be a lot of checks. And I do think anybody who was thinking about going on a summer holiday from the UK to Southern Europe this year, that I just cannot see. That is not going to happen. And I fear for the economies in Southern Europe. So, I mean, the Greek economy has been in a lot of problems for, 10 to 20 years, really. And they depend so much on tourism. And they're not going to get any tourists this year. So how's the Greek economy going to manage? Italy, again, their welfare system is not the best. And in southern Italy, they're already sort of looting going on, shops being held at gunpoint because people are starving. These things aren't going to go away. Same with Spain. I mean, Spain's having a lot of deaths at the moment, and their economy is based around tourism, and without tourists, their economy is going to really struggle. So, like I say, I envisage sort of the world looking a lot different in the future, because I think governments are going to be paranoid when it comes to travel, and that's going to affect airlines, because airlines depend on people travelling. Jumping on a plane and just flying to Rome for a weekend, I just can't see that happening. And that's going to, of course, that's going to affect jobs in the airline industry and at airports. But it's going to be interesting to see how things develop. I mean, even Boris Johnson's got the coronavirus, and Prince Charles has got it. You know, I saw Boris Johnson on the news leading up to him having coronavirus, and he wasn't 2 meters away. You know, he was very close to people, and only a few weeks earlier he was sort of boasting that he was shaking everybody's hands. So I wonder whether he was taking it as seriously as he should have been. And as for Donald Trump, whether he's going to have to backtrack on what he said. The mayor of New York's talked so well, so emotionally. You know, very moving when that guy speaks. You know, when that guy speaks, everybody listens. When Donald Trump speaks, everybody laughs. You know, that's the difference. So one thing this virus has shown up is everyone can see now what Donald Trump's all about, and yeah, I suppose that's the only good thing that's come out of it. Yeah, you can go on for ages about this virus. I mean, yeah, it's killed 30,000 people now, which is, for everybody involved, is tragic. But I heard that 3 billion people have now been sort of economically affected by it. So governments have got a difficult sort of balancing act, and that's why I'm saying that they'll never let anything like this happen again. They'll have the ventilators, they'll have the hospitals on standby, because they cannot afford to close down their economies again. You know, they're already on about this being like the you know, the worst recession in a generation. You know, and who am I to argue? So yeah, that went on a bit, but yeah, a few things on my mind. So yeah, back to the records. Hope you enjoyed what I saw, what I showed, should I say. A little bit of variety there. Yeah, and yeah, I'll probably do a video once a week. Whether I'll talk about the coronavirus on every video, I'm not too sure, just see how things develop. If you want to make a comment, I'd love to hear from you. If you're a new subscriber, then I'm amazed. But yeah, thanks for subscribing to my channel and watching my videos. I really appreciate it. There's been a few people on the VC talking about the coronavirus. Not everybody wants to talk about it. You know, some people come on here to escape. John the Digital Gramophone, Rob Sounds Strange, and Mazzy have spoken about it. A few other people as well. But yeah, it's a release for me to talk about it, and yeah, let's see how things develop over the next couple of weeks. But you know, this is going to go on for months and months, so we better get used to it. So that's it from me. Enjoy the rest of your week, and bye for now.